My name is Ruth. And when I went in the waves, I went from Seattle, Washington to Northampton, Massachusetts. And I stayed 2 terms at Northampton, one at the communications school and one in basic training. Then I went to Hunters Point, California, where I stayed until the following November when I didn't resign. I stayed in the Navy for a couple of years, but I went on inactive duty and went to Washington, D.C. with Jim. Then I went back to college to get my educational credential. I went 1 year to when we were in Topeka, Kansas, and received my teaching credential. And I've been teaching ever since. I have 3 boys, John, Bill, and Jim. The Navy was recruiting for women to take jobs at home so that the men could fight overseas. And they managed to recruit in 3 or 4 years, nearly 80,000 women took jobs at home so that their men folks could go. Now, I'm not positive all these men wanted to go to sea, but they didn't have any choice. I saw that Irene Rich, was the movie actress, was bringing her sister, her daughter, Frances Rich, to the University of Washington and was going to speak to the Associated Women students. So I decided to go. I came away feeling that I should try to get into the waves and to send a man to sea. So I decided that I would wait till after I graduated in June, and then I would see if I could get in the waves. Meanwhile, I was working at the Alaska Communications System while I was going to college, had a job there doing telephone operations, telephone operator. Now, my sister was at Washington State College, and when she found out that I wanted to join the waves, she decided she would too. So when school was out, we applied, and we were accepted and were able to go the first class in September. We went to Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts for basic training. Then she went to Washington, D.C., and they sent me right across the campus to this communications school where we were taught how to work the top secret machines that the men were using in their coding and decoding. Now, my first assignment was to Hunters Point, California, and hers was to Washington, D.C. I arrived at Hunters Point in the first day of February of 1945, and we went down to South Hunters Point, which had been quickly changed from a large base with men to make room for the women. Well, they had put one building for enlisted women, and then they had no place to put the officers except in a halfway back in the bachelor officers' quarters. They had some small rooms, and they gave each one of us one there. And we had to take all of our meals at the officers' club. Now that sounds great. You think you're going to have a wonderful meal every night, but during wartime that wasn't quite the case. We had lots and lots of rabbit, and I got tired of eating it, and in fact didn't even want to because my sister had a pet rabbit. But then if we had company, they would bring in ham or roast beef was unheard of then, but we could, and we might have chicken, but the meals were very similar, and we quickly wore out on enjoying them. Therefore, when this gentleman offered me a steak dinner on Sunday, I was delighted to go. Then our coding and decoding was, I was in the top secret room. They had one room that wasn't quite as secret where they did some work, but we were top secret and did not tell people what we were doing, and we worked shifts. We had graveyard, day shift, and afternoon shift. And this one day, we had the carrier in Indianapolis came to Hunters Point to pick up some components and of something to take out to sea. And we probably had one message after another, all top secret. And we worked all night. I worked the full afternoon shift, and they didn't want to change at midnight, just wanted to leave us on to finish. And that turned out to be the components of the atom bomb was sent from Hunters Point that night on the Indianapolis. And I've never forgotten it because it was such a momentous deal in history that we were able to get it out, and actually that ended the war. My sister was up at Island, and she worked. They worked on submarines, getting them ready to leave. They had to inspect them, so that was what she did up there. But we then, when Jim came back, when he asked me to marry him, he was going back to sea. We were going to get married when he came back, which we did. And I went to Washington with him and been with him ever since. And the girls, when they saw that the atomic bomb that the Pennsylvania had been hit, they put the message where I wouldn't see it until I had heard how many people had been, I think 20 were killed. That was all, but that was enough. And then that effectively ended their time. Now we had uniforms. We in the 12th Naval District, we wore the navy blue and white. Now down in San Diego, they could wear white to work. We couldn't do that. Up in Seattle, they had to wear the winter regalia. And I was trying to think, anywhere you had to be in full uniform. You couldn't be out on the street unless you were in full uniform. But I enjoyed being in the waves and made friends. We had 8 girls that worked in the communications, and we had circulated a round robin for over nearly 70 years. There were only 3 of us left who could communicate. There was another girl living, but she has Alzheimer's and she can't contribute her letters, but we send a letter and then on around. So we stayed together all those years and seen each other when we could, exchange messages about our family. Now, I also think that I'm extremely fortunate that I have both a husband and a sister still living from that area. My sister is not in as good physical condition as I am, but she's still able to talk and remember things. Her mind is still good. Physically, she's not quite as spry as I am, such as it is. And I haven't seen her since about 6 years, but I have, we are in touch all the time with today's email, and it's awfully easy to stay in touch with your folks. Now we have 5 grandchildren and an adopted granddaughter from our daughter-in-law, and then we have 3 great-grandchildren. So we have a pretty fair-sized family.